This is Hess's Law, worksheet, problem 11. All right, so the way that I like to tackle these problems is to first find substances that are in this main problem and compare them to the substances that are in the problems below. So I'm going to first look at zinc here. And I'm going to notice that in these problems underneath, zinc is only found one other place here. So that would be a good one to start out with. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to compare them. And zinc is on the correct side of the equation. They're both on the reactant side. And they both have the mole, the number 1. So I don't have to multiply it by anything, and I don't have to flip them. So I'm just going to keep that one the same. And I'm going to rewrite it underneath. Okay, so, and then I'm just going to put a check mark here by the delta H because I don't have space to really write it on the side. So you'll notice that this zinc takes care of this zinc over here. And also, it turns out that you've also placed this 1/8 sulfur in the right place as well. Okay, so now let's continue to look for something that is similar. If I look at this zinc sulfate and this zinc sulfate here is the only place where it's found, so that would be a good one to start with. So it looks like the one here is on the product side, this is also on the product side, and they both have an understood 1 in front of it, so we actually don't have to do anything to that one. So I'm going to put a check mark, and I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it underneath. Okay, and so I'm going to highlight this in a green color, this zinc sulfate, and this zinc sulfate. Okay, so now there are different ways I can continue. I could look for the oxygen here, but if you notice, oxygen is found in more than one place in our problems below, so that tends to make it really tricky. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to try and cross out the substances in these two problems, cross out the ones that we don't need, and hopefully by doing that we can eventually get to the right answer. So let's say that I want to get rid of this SO3 here. What I would need is one SO3 to be on the product side, and I have an SO3 here in the product side in this equation, although this one has a number 2 and the SO3 here has an understood number 1. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to divide this, sorry, that's a bit squished, divide it by 2. Okay, so that will give us 1 SO2 plus half oxygen, yielding 1 SO3. And if we do that on our calculator, if we divide 196.04 in our calculator, divide that by 2 the same way that we divided the equation by 2, we will get negative 98.02. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cross out the SO3s here. All right, so now what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and cross out this the SO2 and the zinc oxide. And then also eventually we're going to have to cross out this zinc sulfide here. It turns out that this equation, if we manipulate it correctly, does all of those things for us. So we are going to actually have to divide this by 2. And because if we divide this by 2, we'll be left with 1 SO2. That could be crossed out with this 1 SO2 over here. So I'm going to write here divide by 2. So we're going to be left with zinc sulfide plus 3/2 oxygen yields zinc oxide plus SO2. So now let's go ahead and cross out what we can. Zinc oxide, zinc oxide, zinc sulfide, zinc sulfide, SO2, SO2. So now what we have, I'm going to try and fit this in the bottom. Not sure if it'll work. Okay, if you notice, I'm going to take another highlighter here, make it blue. This 2O2 is spoken for in these two parts of O2 here written. So let me go ahead and I'm going to add it all up to make sure that we're right. Oh, by the way, let me go ahead and divide this by 2. That gives us negative, 463.8. I'm very sorry that doesn't fit. Hopefully I'll make sure it adds up better at the end. So let me go ahead and write zinc plus 1/8 sulfur yield, plus 2O2, because half plus 3/2 is 2, yields ZnSO4. And if now we have to add up all of these. So we're going to take negative 183.92, add it to negative 463.8, add it to negative 98.02, and add it to negative 230.32. We should be ending up with about negative 976 delta H. Delta H. And I hope that helps.